In the endless void of space, a desperate cry pierces the silence. An alien SOS from the Silari Federation, hunted to the brink by the relentless harvester machines. But when all hope seems lost, humanity answers. From the brutal crucible of Earth, Admiral Sarah Cross unleashes the Deathworlders' most savage fleet, a force forged in chaos, ready to turn the tide. This is no ordinary rescue. This is humanity's moment to dominate the stars. Prepare for a tale of war, wit, and unyielding will. The cry in the dark, the silence of deep space was broken by a sound that should not have existed. Communication Officer Maya Chen sat in the observation deck of Deep Space Station Omega, her fingers dancing across holographic displays as strange patterns filled her screens. For 3 years, she had monitored the empty void beyond human space, listening for signs of intelligent life. Today, that search had finally ended. "Control, this is Chen in Communications Base 7, she spoke into her headset, her voice steady despite the racing of her heart. "I'm detecting structured transmissions from Grid Section 447, multiple sources, high complexity patterns, definitely artificial origin." The response came immediately from Station Commander Torres. "Maya, please tell me you're not picking up another pulsar anomaly. We've had enough false alarms this month." Chen shook her head, even though the commander couldn't see her. "Negative, sir. These signals show clear mathematical progressions and repeating symbolic structures." "Commander, I think we found them. I think we found actual aliens." Within minutes, the station's xenolinguistics lab became the center of a storm of activity. Dr. Robert Kane, a tall man with graying hair and eyes that held the wisdom of someone who had spent decades studying dead alien languages, arrived carrying his portable analysis equipment. He was followed by a team of cryptographers, communication specialists, and senior officers who rarely left their command posts. "Show me what you've got, Maya," Dr. Kane said, settling into the chair beside her workstation. Chen brought up the signal patterns on the main display. Waves of data flowed across the screen, each one showing complex mathematical relationships and recurring symbolic elements. "The transmission started approximately 4 hours ago. They're coming from at least 7 different sources in a roughly spherical pattern, about 47 light-years from our current position." Dr. Kane studied the patterns, his experienced eyes catching details that others might miss. "The mathematical base appears to be 12 rather than 10, but the underlying logic is similar to our own computational systems. Maya, can you isolate the recurring elements?" Chen's fingers flew across her controls, highlighting specific sections of the transmission. "These sequences appear in every signal. If I had to guess, I'd say they're either identification codes or distress markers." "Distress markers," Dr. Kane repeated thoughtfully. "Maya, run these patterns through the Universal Mathematical Communication Protocols. Start with basic geometry and prime numbers." As Maya worked, the patterns began to resolve into something more recognizable. The alien transmissions were using mathematical concepts that humans understood, but arranged in ways that suggested a different evolutionary path. Dr. Kane watched the translation algorithms work, his expression growing more serious with each passing minute. "My God," he whispered. "Maya, these aren't just random transmissions. These are coordinated emergency broadcasts." Commander Torres leaned over Dr. Kane's shoulder. "Emergency broadcasts? What kind of emergency?" Dr. Kane pointed to specific elements in the decoded message. "Look at these frequency modulations. They're identical to stress patterns we use in our own emergency protocols. And these mathematical sequences here, they're countdown timers. Whatever's happening out there, it's getting worse, and time is running out." The breakthrough came 6 hours later. Dr. Kane had been working with Maya and her team, gradually building a translation matrix based on mathematical relationships and logical progressions. When the first complete sentence appeared on their screens, the entire communications bay fell silent. "To the unknown watchers beyond the void," Dr. Kane read aloud. "We are the Silari Federation, children of 12 worlds in the spiral arm you call Sector 447. Ancient death awakens in our space. The harvesters have returned. Our fleets cannot stop them. Billions will die unless aid comes from beyond our borders. We have detected your signals. Please, if there is honor in your species, help us. Time grows short." Maya stared at the translated message. "Harvesters? What are harvesters?" Dr. Kane continued translating as more of the message became clear. "From what I can determine, the harvesters are some kind of automated system. Ancient machines that consume entire star systems for raw materials. The Silari described them as having been dormant for thousands of years, but something has awakened them." Commander Torres activated his communication link to Earth Command. "Priority Alpha transmission to Admiral Cross. We have confirmed alien contact and a potential threat situation requiring immediate response. The response from Earth was swift and decisive. Admiral Sarah Cross was humanity's most decorated military commander, known for taking impossible situations and turning them into victories through sheer determination and unconventional tactics. She had earned her reputation fighting pirates in the asteroid belts and rebels on the outer colonies. If anyone could help desperate aliens against ancient machines, it was her. Admiral Cross arrived at Deep Space Station Omega aboard her flagship, the massive dreadnought, Sovereign Fury. She was a woman in her 50s with steel-gray hair and eyes that had seen too many battles. Her presence commanded immediate respect from everyone on the station. "Dr. Kane," she said as she reviewed the alien transmissions. "What's your assessment of this threat level?" Dr. Kane had spent the past day analyzing every piece of data the Solari had transmitted. "Admiral, based on the energy signatures and descriptions we're receiving, these harvesters operate on a scale we've never encountered. They appear to disassemble entire planets for raw materials and can adapt their technology to counter any defense." Admiral Cross studied the star charts showing the location of the Solari Federation. "And you believe their request for help is genuine?" Maya spoke up from her workstation. "Admiral, we've been monitoring their communications for 3 days now. The desperation in their transmissions is increasing. They're losing worlds faster than they can evacuate them. Whatever these harvesters are, they're real, and they're winning." Admiral Cross made her decision with the swift efficiency that had made her famous throughout human space. "Dr. Kane, continue working on translation protocols. I want full communication capability with these Solari. Maya, prepare a comprehensive communications package for immediate transmission. Let them know that humanity is responding to their call for aid." Within hours, Admiral Cross had assembled a battle fleet unlike anything humanity had ever put into space. 43 warships, including 5 dreadnought-class vessels, 12 heavy cruisers, and 26 destroyers equipped with the most advanced weapon systems human engineering could produce. The fleet also included specialized vessels carrying technology that might prove useful against an unknown enemy. Captain Marcus Steele commanded the dreadnought Iron Thunder, a ship designed for maximum firepower and survivability. He was known throughout the fleet as someone who could take his vessel into impossible situations and bring his crew home alive. His ship carried experimental weapon systems that pushed the boundaries of human technology. "Admiral," Captain Steele reported as the fleet prepared for departure, "all vessels are ready for hyperspace jump. Estimated travel time to Solari space is 72 hours at maximum velocity." Admiral Cross stood on the bridge of her flagship, looking out at the assembled fleet. These were the ships and crews that represented humanity's finest military tradition. They were descendants of the species that had fought its way up from a world where everything tried to kill them, survivors who had learned to turn disadvantage into victory. "Captain Steele," she said, "signal the fleet. All ships prepare for jump to hyperspace. We have aliens to save and ancient machines to destroy." The alien transmissions continued throughout the fleet's preparation phase. The Solari were sending increasingly desperate updates about their losing war against the harvesters. Entire star systems were going dark as the ancient machines consumed everything in their path. The mathematical precision of the destruction was terrifying, but it also gave the humans valuable intelligence about their enemy. Dr. Kane had established basic communication with the Solari and learned that they were a confederation of peaceful species who had avoided conflict for centuries. Their technology was advanced in many ways, but they had no experience with warfare on the scale the harvesters demanded. They built for exploration and cooperation, not for the kind of brutal conflict that seemed to be the only language the ancient machines understood. As the human fleet prepared to enter hyperspace, Maya received one final transmission from the Solari Federation. Dr. Kane translated it quickly, and the message was broadcast to every ship in the fleet. "To the warriors of Earth," the message read, "we have learned of your approach from your strange and wonderful communications. We do not understand how a species from a world of constant danger and conflict can also show such kindness to strangers, but we are grateful beyond measure. Our scouts report that the harvesters have detected your fleet and are already adapting their strategies. They have never encountered your kind of chaos thinking before, and this confuses their computational systems. Perhaps this confusion is exactly what we need. May your journey be swift and your weapons strike true. The fate of 2 species now rests in your hands." Admiral Cross read the message and smiled grimly. "Chaos thinking," she mused. The Solari had no idea how accurate that description was. Humans had learned to survive on a world where predictability meant death. Their entire military doctrine was based on adapting faster than their enemies could respond. If these harvesters were purely logical machines, they were about to learn what happened when logic met human determination. The fleet jumped to hyperspace, carrying with it the hopes of a desperate alien civilization and the weight of humanity's first test as a galactic power. Behind them, Deep Space Station Omega continued monitoring the Solari transmissions, watching as more worlds went dark and ancient machines grew stronger with each victory. The human fleet was racing against time itself, carrying weapons and tactics developed in the brutal crucible of Earth's endless conflicts. Whether human chaos thinking would be enough to defeat ancient machine logic remained to be seen, but one thing was certain. Humanity was about to announce its presence to the galaxy in the most dramatic way possible. Meeting the Hunted. The human fleet dropped out of hyperspace at the edge of Solari space to a sight that sobered even the most battle-hardened veterans. Where star charts indicated a thriving solar system should exist, there was only debris and the slowly fading glow of a dying star. The harvesters had been thorough in their work, leaving nothing behind but scattered atoms and the occasional piece of metal that had once been part of a planetary civilization. Admiral Cross stood on the bridge of Sovereign Fury, studying the tactical displays with the calm focus that had carried her through decades of impossible battles. "Sensors, give me a full spectrum analysis of that debris field. I want to know exactly what we're looking at." Lieutenant Commander Singh worked quickly at her station, her instruments probing the remains of what had once been a living world. "Admiral, the debris pattern suggests systematic disassembly rather than explosive destruction. Whatever did this was methodical, efficient, and incredibly advanced." Captain Steele's voice came over the communication system from Iron Thunder. "Admiral, I'm detecting massive energy signatures approximately 12 light minutes from our current position. Multiple contacts, and they're big." Admiral Cross felt the familiar tightening in her stomach that always preceded major combat. "All ships, battle stations, sensors, I want detailed scans of those energy signatures." The tactical display updated to show the approaching contacts. What the sensors revealed made several bridge officers step backward in surprise. The harvester constructs were enormous, each one the size of a small moon, their surfaces covered with geometric patterns that seemed to shift and reconfigure as they moved through space. "My God," whispered Dr. Kane from his position at the communication station. "How do you fight something that size?" Admiral Cross had been asking herself the same question, but her expression remained calm. "The same way humans have always fought larger opponents, Doctor. We find their weaknesses and exploit them with maximum prejudice." Before the human fleet could fully analyze the harvester constructs, a new contact appeared on their sensors. This ship was different, smaller and more elegant in design, clearly of alien origin, but definitely not one of the threatening machines. It was transmitting on frequencies that Dr. Kane had identified as standard Solari communication protocols. "Admiral," Dr. Kane reported, "I'm receiving a transmission from the alien vessel. It's using the translation protocols we developed. They're requesting permission to approach and asking for immediate diplomatic contact." Admiral Cross considered the request. The approaching ship showed no weapon signatures, but first contact with an alien species was always dangerous. "Grant permission for approach, but keep weapons ready. I want a full escort of fighters deployed around our formation." The alien vessel approached slowly, clearly making an effort to appear non-threatening. As it came closer, the humans could see that its design was unlike anything in their experience. The ship seemed to be grown rather than built, its hull flowing in organic curves that suggested a completely different approach to engineering and aesthetics. Dr. Kane's translation equipment worked overtime as communications flowed between the ships. "Admiral, they're requesting permission to dock and send an ambassador aboard. The being in charge calls itself Ambassador Zella 9, representative of the Solari High Council." Admiral Cross made her decision quickly. "Permission granted. Have them dock with Base 7 and prepare a full diplomatic reception. Dr. Kane, I want you there for translation support." Ambassador Zella 9 was unlike anything the humans had expected. The being stood nearly 7 feet tall, with 4 arms arranged symmetrically around a torso that seemed to be covered in a naturally occurring armor-like skin. Where humans had individual eyes, Zella 9 had clusters of sensory organs that could apparently see across multiple spectrums simultaneously. Most striking of all, the ambassador moved with a grace that suggested perfect control over every muscle and joint. "Admiral Cross," Zella 9 said through Dr. Kane's translation equipment, its voice carrying harmonic undertones that suggested complex emotional states. "I speak for the Solari Federation and the 11 surviving worlds of our confederation. We are grateful beyond measure that you have answered our call for help." Admiral Cross studied the alien diplomat carefully. Despite the obviously different evolutionary path, she could recognize desperation and hope in equal measure. Ambassador, we're here to help, but we need to understand exactly what we're facing. Zella 9 gestured with two of its arms toward a portable display unit it had brought from its ship. Admiral, may I show you the true scope of what threatens not just my people, but potentially all life in this region of the galaxy. The display activated to show a three-dimensional map of local space. Red markers indicated dead systems, while yellow markers showed systems currently under attack. The pattern was clear and terrifying. The harvesters were working their way systematically through inhabited space, consuming everything in their path and growing stronger with each victory. The harvesters first awakened 47 of your days ago, Zella 9 explained. Our historians tell us they last appeared over 3,000 years ago, when my people were just beginning to develop spaceflight. Then, as now, they consumed entire civilizations before returning to dormancy. Dr. Kane asked the question that everyone was thinking. What awakened them this time? Zella 9's sensory clusters dimmed with what appeared to be shame. We believe it was our own success, Admiral. The Solari Federation has grown to encompass 12 star systems with billions of inhabitants. Our energy consumption and technological signatures may have triggered their awakening protocols. Captain Steele joined the briefing via communication link. Admiral, we're detecting movement from those large constructs. They appear to be changing course to intercept our position. Admiral Cross looked at the tactical display showing the approaching harvester fleet. Even at extreme range, their sensors could detect the massive energy signatures of the ancient machines. Ambassador, what can you tell us about their capabilities? Zella 9 manipulated its display to show detailed scans of harvester technology. They adapt, Admiral. Every weapon we use against them, every tactic we employ, they analyze and develop countermeasures. Our fleets initially achieved some success, but within days the harvesters had adapted their defenses to render our weapons ineffective. Admiral Cross studied the tactical data with growing interest. Adaptive enemies were dangerous, but they also had a predictable weakness. They required time to analyze and respond to new threats. If the human fleet could present them with threats they had never encountered before, they might gain a temporary advantage. Ambassador, Admiral Cross said, what do you know about human military doctrine? Zella 9's sensory clusters shifted color in a pattern that Dr. Kane's equipment translated as confusion. Very little, Admiral. We know that your species developed on a world with extreme environmental challenges, but the Solari have avoided military conflict for over 2 millennia. We are not warriors. Admiral Cross smiled grimly. That's exactly why you called us, Ambassador. Humans specialize in the kind of warfare that civilized species avoid. We learned to fight on a world where everything was trying to kill us, and we've spent the last several centuries perfecting the art of destroying our enemies completely. The strategic conference was interrupted by urgent alerts from the fleet's sensor operators. The harvester constructs had accelerated their approach and were now close enough for detailed scanning. What the sensors revealed was both fascinating and terrifying. Admiral, Lieutenant Commander Singh reported, the harvester constructs appear to be reconfiguring themselves as they approach. Their hull structures are shifting, and we're detecting the formation of what appear to be weapon systems. Captain Steele's voice carried over the communications system with the calm efficiency of a veteran warrior. Admiral, I'm reading energy buildups that suggest they're preparing to fire. Whatever they're planning to hit us with, it's going to be big. Admiral Cross looked at Ambassador Zella 9. How long does it usually take them to adapt to new threats? Zella 9 consulted its own equipment. Based on our experience, approximately 6 to 12 of your hours for basic adaptation, several days for complete integration of new countermeasures. Admiral Cross activated the fleet communication system. All ships, this is Admiral Cross. The enemy has never encountered human tactics before, which gives us a narrow window of opportunity. We're going to hit them with everything we have, using every dirty trick human military doctrine has developed. The goal is not to destroy them immediately, but to confuse their adaptive systems and buy time for a more comprehensive strategy. The first harvester weapon struck the human fleet with devastating effect. The energy beam that lanced out from the lead construct was unlike anything human technology had encountered. It didn't simply damage the target ship, it began converting the matter of the hull into something else, spreading like a technological infection. All ships, evasive maneuvers, Admiral Cross ordered. Pattern Delta 7, I want maximum unpredictability. The human fleet scattered like a school of fish avoiding a predator, each ship following a different evasive pattern. This was something the harvesters had never seen before. Every other species they had encountered fought in formation, using logical tactical doctrines that could be analyzed and predicted. Humans fought like the apex predators they had evolved to become, each unit capable of independent action while still supporting the overall mission. Captain Steele's Iron Thunder dove directly at the largest harvester construct, its weapons blazing. Instead of targeting the obvious weapon systems, he aimed for what appeared to be sensor clusters and communication arrays. His goal wasn't to destroy the massive machine, but to blind and confuse it. "Admiral," he reported as his ship weaved between the harvester's return fire. "Their targeting systems seem designed for conventional fleet engagements. They're having trouble tracking individual ships using evasive maneuvers." Admiral Cross smiled. This was exactly what she had hoped to hear. "All ships pattern Chaos 7. I want every ship using different attack vectors and target priorities. Let's see how their adaptive systems handle complete tactical randomness." The battle that followed was unlike anything either side had ever experienced. The harvesters, accustomed to fighting conventional fleets that followed logical tactical doctrines, found themselves facing an enemy that seemed to have no tactical doctrine at all. Human ships attacked from every conceivable angle, targeted seemingly random systems, and employed weapons in ways that defied military logic. Dr. Kane watched the battle from the bridge of sovereign fury, fascinated by the display of organized chaos that was human military doctrine in action. "Admiral, I'm monitoring harvester communications. Their adaptation systems appear to be overloading trying to analyze our tactics." Ambassador Zella 9 observed the battle with what could only be described as amazement. "Admiral Cross, your ships fight like the predators of my homeworld's ancient seas. Each one independent, yet working together to bring down prey much larger than themselves." Admiral Cross nodded, watching as her fleet systematically confused and damaged the harvester constructs. "That's exactly what we are, Ambassador. Predators from a world that taught us to hunt as a pack. And right now, we're hunting machines that have never encountered anything like human determination." The battle raged for 6 hours, with the human fleet inflicting significant damage on the harvester constructs while taking minimal losses in return. But Admiral Cross knew this was only the beginning. The ancient machines were already starting to adapt to human tactics, and soon they would develop countermeasures that would neutralize humanity's temporary advantage. As the immediate battle wound down, Ambassador Zella 9 approached Admiral Cross with an expression that Dr. Kane's equipment translated as desperate hope. "Admiral, you have achieved more in 6 hours than our fleets accomplished in weeks of fighting. But we both know this victory is temporary. The harvesters will adapt, and when they do, they will be even more dangerous than before." Admiral Cross looked at the tactical display showing the damaged but still functional harvester constructs. "Then we need to make sure our next engagement is decisive, Ambassador. And for that we're going to need everything the Silari Federation can teach us about their technology and everything humanity has learned about turning impossible odds into victory." Chaos as a weapon. The combined human and Silari fleet gathered at the edge of the Kepler Nebula, using the charged particle clouds to mask their presence while they prepared for what everyone knew would be the final battle. Admiral Cross stood in the planning chamber aboard Sovereign Fury, surrounded by human officers, Silari military advisors, and displays showing the most complex tactical situation any of them had ever faced. Elder Keeper Thane, the oldest surviving Silari military strategist, projected a holographic map showing the current harvester positions. The ancient alien's 4 arms moved in precise patterns as he manipulated the display, his sensory clusters dim with the weight of accumulated knowledge. "Admiral Cross," Thane said through Dr. Kane's translation equipment, "the harvesters have completed their adaptation cycle. Our scouts report that they have developed countermeasures for every tactic your fleet employed in our previous engagement." Captain Steele studied the intelligence reports from his position at the tactical table. "Not surprising, any adaptive system worth building would learn from its mistakes. The question is whether they've learned enough to predict what we'll do next." Captain Lisa Forge, the newly arrived commander of the special operations vessel Silent Storm, looked up from her analysis of harvester defensive patterns. "Admiral, their adaptation seems to be based on logical extrapolation from observed behavior. They're trying to predict our tactics using mathematical models." Admiral Cross felt the familiar stirring of an idea that had won her countless battles against impossible odds. "Captain Forge, what if we gave them too much data to process? What if we presented them with so many different tactical approaches simultaneously that their adaptation systems couldn't keep up?" Dr. Kane, who had been working closely with Silari technicians to understand their advanced computing systems, looked up from his workstation. Admiral, the Solari have shared some fascinating information about their quantum processing technology. Their computers don't just calculate possible outcomes, they can actually simulate multiple reality states simultaneously. Ambassador Zella 9 gestured toward the technical displays. Dr. Kane is correct, Admiral. Our quantum processors can model thousands of possible battle scenarios in parallel, allowing us to prepare for multiple contingencies simultaneously. Admiral Cross studied the technical specifications of Solari quantum computing systems. The technology was far beyond anything humanity had developed, but the underlying principles were familiar. Ambassador, could your quantum system simulate not just possible human tactics, but impossible human tactics? Strategies that violate conventional military logic? Elder Keeper Thane's sensory clusters shifted to a pattern that Dr. Kane's equipment translated as intense interest. Admiral, are you suggesting that we deliberately employ irrational tactics? Captain Steele laughed, a sound that carried dark humor earned through years of desperate battles. Elder Keeper, you've obviously never studied human military history. We specialize in irrational tactics. Some of our greatest victories came from strategies that no sane military mind would consider. The planning session that followed stretched for 18 hours as human tactical doctrine met Solari technological capability. The humans contributed their expertise in asymmetric warfare, unconventional thinking, and the kind of battlefield improvisation that came from evolving on a world where logical thinking often meant death. The Solari provided advanced computing power, sophisticated energy manipulation technology, and manufacturing capabilities that could produce new weapon systems in a matter of hours. Captain Forge presented the final tactical plan to the assembled fleet commanders. Ladies, gentlemen, and honored Solari allies, we're about to attempt something that has never been tried in galactic military history. We're going to attack the Harvesters using not one strategy, but 17 different strategies simultaneously. The plan was audacious, even by human standards. The combined fleet would split into 17 separate task forces, each one employing completely different tactics. Some would use conventional military doctrine, others would employ strategies that bordered on suicidal, and still others would use tactics that had never been attempted in space combat. Admiral Cross addressed the fleet over the general communication system. All ships, all crews, both human and Solari. We stand at a moment that will determine the fate of 2 civilizations and potentially every other species in this region of the galaxy. The Harvesters represent order taken to its logical extreme, the elimination of all chaos and unpredictability from the universe. Today we show them that chaos is not a weakness to be eliminated, but a strength to be embraced. The Harvester fleet had grown during their adaptation period. Where 47 constructs had attacked the human fleet initially, now over 200 massive machines moved through space with mechanical precision. They had incorporated the wreckage of consumed worlds into new weapons systems and defensive capabilities. Their formation was perfect, their movement coordinated, their tactical approach flawless according to every military doctrine known to galactic civilization. They had prepared for everything except what happened next. Task Force Alpha, led by Captain Steele and Iron Thunder, attacked the Harvester formation using conventional human naval tactics adapted for space combat. Their approach was logical, predictable, and exactly what the Harvester adaptation systems had prepared to counter. The ancient machines responded perfectly, deploying countermeasures that neutralized Alpha's weapons and began the process of systematic destruction. Task Force Beta attacked from the opposite direction using Solari energy manipulation techniques combined with human fighter tactics. Their approach was more exotic than Alpha's, but still within the parameters of rational military doctrine. The Harvesters adapted quickly, reconfiguring their defenses to handle this new threat. Task Force Gamma did something that no military academy in the galaxy would ever teach. They used their own ships as projectiles, accelerating to significant fractions of light speed and ramming directly into Harvester constructs while their crews teleported to safety using experimental Solari transportation technology. The tactic was wasteful, dangerous, and completely insane by any logical standard. It was also devastatingly effective. The Harvesters had never encountered an enemy willing to sacrifice their own equipment for tactical advantage. Their adaptation systems, designed to counter logical threats, struggled to process tactics that defied rational analysis. Task Force Delta attacked using weapons that shouldn't have worked. Dr. Kane and the Solari technicians had developed projectiles that used quantum uncertainty as a destructive mechanism. The weapons existed in multiple states simultaneously until they impacted their targets, making them impossible to defend against using conventional shielding. Task Force Echo employed psychological warfare, broadcasting human music and art at frequencies that interfered with harvester communication systems. The cultural expressions of a chaotic species created enough random noise to disrupt the machine network's coordination. Task Force Foxtrot used Solari manufacturing technology to continuously modify their weapons during combat, ensuring that the harvesters never faced the same threat twice in succession. By the time 17 different task forces had engaged the harvester fleet using 17 completely different tactical approaches, the ancient machines' adaptation systems were in complete overload. They had been designed to counter logical threats by analyzing patterns and developing countermeasures, but humans and their Solari allies weren't presenting them with patterns to analyze. They were presenting them with pure, weaponized chaos. Captain Forge led Task Force Omega in the final assault using a tactic that combined human desperation with Solari quantum technology. Her ships existed in multiple probability states simultaneously, attacking from several different positions at once while occupying the same space-time coordinates. The effect on the harvester fleet was catastrophic. Their central coordination network, overwhelmed by trying to process impossible tactical scenarios, began to break down. Individual constructs started operating independently, their responses becoming increasingly erratic as their adaptive programming failed to cope with threats that violated their fundamental assumptions about warfare. Admiral Cross watched from sovereign fury as the harvester formation disintegrated. The ancient machines, which had operated with perfect coordination for millions of years, were turning on each other as their damaged network systems sent conflicting commands. All task forces, Phase 2 of the operation, she ordered. Target their command nodes while their coordination is disrupted. The combined fleet converged on the largest harvester constructs, focusing their fire on the quantum processing centers that controlled the machine network. Human kinetic weapons, Solari energy beams, and hybrid technologies that neither species could have developed alone struck with devastating precision. Elder Keeper Thane watched the destruction of the harvester fleet with what Dr. Kane's equipment translated as amazement mixed with horror. Admiral Cross, in 3,000 years of Solari history, we have never witnessed such organized destruction. Admiral Cross nodded grimly. Elder Keeper, organized destruction is what humans do best. We learned it fighting for survival on a world that wanted to kill us, and we've been perfecting it ever since. The battle lasted for 12 hours, ending only when the last harvester construct was reduced to debris. But the victory came with a sobering realization. The machines had been trying to send transmissions during their final moments, calling to other harvester fleets scattered across the galaxy. Ambassador Zella 9 approached Admiral Cross as the combined fleet regrouped. Admiral, our quantum processors have analyzed the harvester communication patterns. They were part of a larger network spanning multiple galactic regions. Other fleets may respond to their distress calls. Captain Steele joined them, his expression showing the exhaustion of prolonged combat. Admiral, we've proven that human chaos thinking can defeat harvester adaptation systems, but we've also announced our presence to every other machine fleet in the galaxy. Admiral Cross looked at the tactical displays showing estimated harvester positions throughout known space. The threat was larger than anyone had imagined, but so was the opportunity. Captain Ambassador, we've also proven that humans and Solari can work together to achieve impossible victories. Dr. Kane had been analyzing the wreckage of destroyed harvester constructs with Solari scientists. Admiral, we've made some fascinating discoveries. The harvesters weren't just consuming worlds for raw materials. They were trying to eliminate what they classified as chaos variables from the galaxy. Elder Keeper Thane's sensory clusters brightened with understanding. The ancient records speak of this. The harvesters believed that unpredictable elements in the galaxy prevented the achievement of perfect order. They saw chaos as a disease to be cured. Captain Forge looked up from her analysis of the battle data. Which means they'll see humanity as the ultimate threat. We represent everything they're programmed to eliminate. Admiral Cross considered this information carefully. The human fleet had won a decisive victory, but they had also painted a target on their entire species. Dr. Kane, can we use their programming against them? If they're compelled to eliminate chaos, can we predict their behavior? Dr. Kane worked with his Solari counterparts to analyze the captured harvester data. Admiral, their behavioral patterns suggest they operate on galactic timescales. They're patient, methodical, and absolutely relentless. Once they identify a target as a chaos source, they'll commit whatever resources are necessary to eliminate it. Ambassador Zella 9 gestured toward the tactical displays. Admiral Cross, the Solari Federation formally requests to join with humanity in an alliance against this threat. Your species has shown us that victory is possible, even against impossible odds. Admiral Cross looked around the planning chamber at the faces of humans and aliens who had fought together against annihilation. The battle had forged something new in the galaxy, a partnership between species that had learned to combine their strengths while compensating for each other's weaknesses. Ambassador, the United Earth government will need to formally approve any alliance, but I can tell you that humanity has learned the value of allies who stand with us against the darkness. The Harvesters want to eliminate chaos from the galaxy, but they've made one critical error in their calculations. Captain Steele smiled grimly. They've given us a reason to get organized. Over the following weeks, as the combined fleet established secure bases in hidden nebulae, the true scope of the alliance began to emerge. Solari quantum computing technology, merged with human tactical innovation, created weapons systems that defied conventional physics. Human manufacturing techniques adapted for rapid production combined with Solari matter manipulation allowed for the construction of entirely new classes of warships. Dr. Kane worked with teams of linguists and technicians to establish communication protocols with other species in the region. The victory over the Harvesters had sent ripples throughout local space, and dozens of civilizations were requesting information about the alliance that had achieved the impossible. Captain Forge led scouting missions that located and evacuated populations from worlds in the path of other Harvester fleets. The rescue operations became laboratories for developing new technologies and tactics, as each encounter provided opportunities to test different approaches to fighting the ancient machines. Elder Keeper Thane became the liaison between Solari historical archives and human military analysts, helping to identify patterns in Harvester behavior that spanned thousands of years. The ancient machines operated on predictable cycles, but those cycles could be disrupted by introducing sufficient chaos into their calculations. Admiral Cross established the Joint Command Center on a mobile space station that could relocate quickly if threatened. From there, she coordinated what was becoming the largest military alliance in galactic history. Species that had never communicated before were sharing technology and tactics in preparation for a war that would determine the future of the galaxy. The first major test of the expanded alliance came 6 months later, when a massive Harvester fleet emerged from the galactic core. This was not the regional force they had defeated previously, but a primary fleet containing thousands of constructs and carrying the accumulated resources of entire spiral arms. The alliance met them at the Meridian Cluster, a region of dense star formation that provided multiple tactical advantages. By now, the joint fleet included vessels from over 40 different species, each contributing their unique capabilities to a war machine that represented the absolute pinnacle of chaotic organization. The battle was fought across 17 star systems simultaneously, with Alliance forces using everything they had learned about defeating adaptive enemies. Human chaos thinking provided the strategic framework, while dozens of alien technologies created weapons and defenses that no single species could have developed. The Harvesters fought with the accumulated knowledge of millions of years, but they faced something that had never existed before in galactic history: a truly united response from chaotic organic life. Every time they adapted to one threat, 17 new threats emerged from species they had never encountered. Admiral Cross watched from the command center as the tide of battle slowly turned in their favor. The Alliance was winning, not through superior firepower or advanced technology, but through the simple principle that chaos, properly organized, could overcome any system designed to impose order. Admiral, Dr. Kane reported as the last Harvester construct was destroyed. We're receiving surrender transmissions from Harvester fleets throughout the galaxy. Their central command network has classified this conflict as unwinnable and is ordering all units to return to dormancy. Captain Steele's voice came over the communication system from his position with the pursuit fleet. Admiral, some of the Harvester constructs are requesting to join the Alliance. They're offering to share their accumulated knowledge in exchange for integration into our command structure. Admiral Cross smiled at the ultimate irony. The machines designed to eliminate chaos had been defeated so thoroughly that they wanted to become part of the chaotic system that had beaten them. Grant their request, Captain. If they want to learn how to embrace chaos instead of fighting it, we'll teach them. Years later, as the Alliance of Free Worlds established diplomatic relations with civilizations across the galaxy, historians would mark the moment when humanity first received the Solari distress call as the beginning of a new era. The age of isolated species competing for resources had ended, replaced by an age of cooperation that made the galaxy stronger than the sum of its parts. Ambassador Zella 9, now serving as the first Secretary General of the Alliance, often reflected on how a desperate call for help had led to the greatest flowering of galactic civilization in recorded history. The Harvesters, in their attempt to eliminate chaos, had unknowingly created the conditions for chaos in order to merge into something greater than either could achieve alone. Admiral Cross, promoted to Supreme Commander of Alliance forces, established the doctrine that would guide galactic military thinking for generations to come. Chaos is not the enemy of order, but its greatest teacher. When chaos and order learn to work together, they become unstoppable. The galaxy had learned that sometimes the best response to an impossible threat was to embrace the impossible solution. Humanity had brought their gift for organized chaos to the stars, and the stars were better for it.